All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call our regular Board of Education meeting for the month of August to order. And I'm going to start with the resuscitation of our vision and mission statements. I'm proud to say that tonight we're reading a newly approved vision and mission statement as approved by the board last month. Our vision, MMSD will be a learning community where all students are valued, challenged, supported, and inspired to reach for their dreams. And our mission, MMSD creates safe and inclusive schools, delivers high quality instruction, strengthens positive relationships, and partners with families and the community to achieve student self-determination and educational excellence. All right, for tonight, let me look at our public input and our written statements. We did receive 2 written statements submitted for this meeting. One is in support of reviewing the teacher pay scale in relation to classroom teacher experience, and the other is in support of ensuring inclusion and equal opportunities for students with disabilities in athletics. We have registered speakers. We have 1 online and 2 who are here to speak in person tonight. I'll start with you, Jessie.
Thank you. Our online speaker is Charles Bergstrom.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, everybody. I was really happy to hear the vision statement as you stated it, and particularly the inclusion of safe and inclusive schools, which is really pertinent to what I'm here to talk about tonight. My name is Charles Bergstrom. I'm a local pediatrician and parent of 2 kids in the district, including Aurelia Bergstrom, who is going to be beginning high school at West High School this fall. Last spring, Aurelia was offered a spot on the West swim team, and accommodations were discussed. This commitment was consistent with her years of participation in All City and Unified Swim, including under West's own coaching. Her peers and our community have looked forward to her joining the team for 3 years as part of a deliberate effort to build inclusion. Now, just as the season begins within the last 24 hours, we've been told that she must complete a tryout and potentially meet JV or varsity standards to stay on the team. That reversal is both harmful and unexpected. There are laws in place that require equal opportunity in athletics with individualized accommodations. DPI and the U.S. Department of Education are clear. Equal opportunity does not mean identical treatment. Reasonable modifications are required unless they fundamentally alter the sport. Through Aurelia's participation in summer swim, her swim times are known by the coaches at West. They don't match JV or varsity times because of her disability. But many students in athletics are not the leading scorers. They still benefit from and contribute to the team. That is exactly why these protections exist, so students are not excluded on the basis of disability-related performance differences. To cut her now would devastate her transition into high school and undermine the inclusive team culture her peers are prepared to embrace. This is also about the bigger picture. Nationally, while more than half of high school students play sports, only about 1/3 of students with disabilities do, and MMSD has the chance to change that. By supporting Aurelia's inclusion, convening an IEP meeting to review accommodations, and adopting a clear policy that protects students when disability affects performance benchmarks, the district can lead the way. MMSD should aspire to become a unified champion school district, joining more than 10,000 schools nationwide that already use inclusive sports to build belonging. Tonight, you can take a step toward making that a reality. I urge the school board to address this issue, which affects not only my daughter and other scholars with disabilities, but would also negatively impact her peers. It may undermine the inclusive culture that MMSD purports to work to maintain. Aurelia's place on the swim team honors both her rights and her peers' expectations. And just to leave, since I have a little bit more time, a short story. At the end of the summer swim session, Aurelia was really upset that the swim season was ending. And a group of her colleagues that are set to be on the West swim team with her this fall came around and consoled her and said, "We're so excited to have you on the swim team, and we're going to see you around the halls at West and in the practice, in the pool with us." And I think that's both what they're looking forward to and what she's looking forward to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our first in-person speaker is Greg Miller, and then followed by our second in-person speaker, Catherine Howley. Welcome, Greg. As you can see on the podium, there's a little black box. When you see the yellow light, it means you have about 30 seconds left. The red light means you're coming to the end of your 3 minutes, and there's also a clock up there. If you're still finishing your last thought, go ahead and we'll give you a few extra seconds to complete your thought. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. My name is Greg Miller. I parent of two high school students at East High School, and I work at Operation Fresh Start. So I'm here in my capacity as a outreach coordinator for Operation Fresh Start to give an update on our partnership. We are very excited to share. We have 39 MMSD graduates through our partnership this year since last September. And of those, the vast majority came to us as credit deficient at the end of their junior year, and were able to graduate on time with their class this year. We're extremely proud of that record, and look forward to continue to work with MMSD to continue those opportunities and to expand and deepen them. I wanted to share that our participants in our legacy program, they continue to work throughout the summer. So we have a year-long, our program goes all year long. So they've continued to work both in the classroom on academics and on career development, but also out in the community. They finished one house this summer, working on a second house, and will soon start on another home next month. Our conservation crews are working in natural areas throughout Dane County, throughout Madison, so city parks, Dane County parks, and then green spaces all over the city, doing floodwater prevention projects, climate change mitigation projects, really meaningful work that makes a difference for this community, and also they gain real world employment experience and a paycheck that helps to support their long-term goals, as well as money for college. I want to share just briefly a story of one of our graduates this year. Is a young man who came to us from East High School. He, like as many of the rest of his peers coming to us just 1 year ago, right? He actually started almost a year ago this week. Came to us credit deficient, but he came ready to make a change in his life and really take advantage of the opportunity that we provide him in partnership with Madison Schools. He became a father during the time that he was with us. He worked with his team with us to make sure that he was supported during that time. Didn't miss a beat. He was able to graduate with his class in June. I was able to go and see him walk the stage at the Lion Energy Center with the East High School graduates this year. His baby was in attendance there. It was fantastic to see the photos of him wearing the full cap and gown with holding his child. And this week he starts at Madison College in the EMT program, where most of his program will be paid for through scholarships and the money that he has earned as an AmeriCorps member. So incredibly proud of him and on all of the other graduates that we have. So want to make sure that sharing that good news and continuing to move forward. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Catherine Howley.
Is that a little better? Thank you. I appreciate, excuse me, I appreciate your attention. While I have the floor here, this one-way street nature is not too indicative of engagement cues, so I appreciate your attention. As all of us can, we can really only speak to what we know here. MMSD has done an amazing job prioritizing the well-being, the safety, and the belonging of all students of all races, of all cultures, identities, and abilities. This board is a reflection of the city and its population, and it proudly represents the student body that it serves. I'm here tonight as a concerned parent, an observant and passionate professional in the world of community planning and civic campuses, and specifically in the treatment of the aging stock of buildings. I'm a practicing architect, and I've spent my career working with schools and universities, hospital systems, churches, and all of that. Everything from master planning to replacing door hardware is in my wheelhouse. I know that the downtown locations of Marquette, Lapham, Marquette, O'Keefe, Franklin, Lowell, East, Emerson, these represent the aging stock of MMSD's buildings, of MMSD's 50-something buildings, and there's a lot of them. I know, but I also know that they are community pillars. They're anchors of our historical neighborhoods, and they set the tone and the scale for the distinctive character of our neighborhoods. Beyond nostalgia and design, which are not in service to the children in many ways, the locations of these buildings and their proximity to downtown services provide unique opportunities for families to reside downtown and have their services very close and be close to transit on these new thoroughfares that we're developing. There is a conversation bubbling about closing the smaller schools in our district. All measures point to it. The development of the KPIs, the attendance boundary study, the July 29th State Journal article asking if Madison is ready for more choices are all preparatory measures and primers to close the smaller downtown schools and send kids to the larger new facilities, Gompers, Shabazz, Blackhawk, and the other ones that are being built. They're newer, they have better technology, they're better stocked, all of the reasons. The KPIs of attendance, belonging, and student performance, or GPAs, are, yes, indicators of a school performance, but they are short-sighted in really supporting the students and their families. The benchmark of if a school gets demolished or repaired respectfully is ridiculous. The district's own deferred maintenance of its building stock and its narrow vision for solving problems in these buildings leave them half unusable and create favorable conditions for the demolition of these buildings based on your own formulas. I urge the board to more broadly consider the impact of these smaller downtown schools and the choices that it provides for families through these conversations, including attendance boundary studies and so on and so forth. They are close to transit, services, jobs, and a wider range of housing types. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That concludes our public input portion of the agenda. I will now move forward with approval of our minutes. I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular meeting dated July 28th, 2025.
Second.
Thank you, Board Member.
Second, Nikki Vandermeer.
Thank you, Board Member Van Meulen. Any questions, comments around the minutes? All right, seeing none. Student Representative Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Aye.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. All right, I see Board Member Castro online. Thank you. Looks like that. Okay, Board Member Muldrow. Okay, so that would be 6 in. Oh, sorry, I couldn't see you, Board Member. Thank you. All right, that's a unanimous approval. Thank you. All right, we'll move now into our board president's announcements and reports. Vice President Pearson and I usually share these announcements. I'll get us started. Welcome to the 2025-2026 school year. The MMSD Board of Education would like to welcome new and returning staff, students, and families to this school year. To our students and families, we are excited to see you in our classrooms and our learning spaces, and we cannot wait for you to explore your dreams and passions. And to our staff, of course, thank you for helping to create a community where everyone is welcomed, belongs, and thrives.
Celebrating our students, 5 MMSD high school students have continued the district strong, showing in the Galen Scholars Program, a 2-year college and career readiness initiative aimed at supporting students from backgrounds historically underrepresented in higher education. Newly selected MMSD participants are Wilma Hobenu from East High School and Milani Lee from Val Phillips Memorial High School. Both are rising juniors. They will join returning seniors Calvin Hobenu from East, and then Alan Metcalf from Memorial, and Saido G from East High School, who are entering their second year in the program.
Thank you. And then just briefly, our other acknowledgements are in tonight's consent agenda. The board would like to acknowledge and thank the individuals and organizations that continue to donate to the district, especially Glenn Reinl and Sarah Kresbach for their donation of $13,500 to support the purchase of a blast chiller at the Food Production Center. This blast chiller will allow food and nutrition to expand the variety of meals offered to our students, and the Madison Public Schools Foundation played an important role in helping to secure this donation. So many thanks. And with that, I will now pass it over to our superintendent. Announcements and reports. And a little birdie has told me that our superintendent has a birthday. You thought you were going to get away with that today, didn't you? The little birdie flying around and told me it's somebody's birthday. Happy birthday, Dr. Gothard.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Well, President Nichols, members of the board, staff, community, thank you for this opportunity. The 25-26 school year starts next week for students. Staff are back today, and many new staff have been back. We have so much to look forward to, including our expansion of 4K, referenda projects, and campaigns such as Mad for Reading. We're also excited to welcome 6,000 staff and educators who have been busy preparing for the upcoming school year. But most importantly, what we're all here for, 26,000 learners are coming back as well. Each year is a new year that starts and brings fresh energy, opportunity for learning and growth, and we're all excited to get started. So let's talk about welcoming our new educators and leaders. Last week, I had the honor of welcoming more than 200 new educators. Not only did we have those first entering education, we also welcome many who are returning to education. I was inspired to feel their energy and excitement for the year ahead, and we're so proud that they've chosen to be part of the Madison Metropolitan School District. And a special thank you to Melinda Heinrichs, the president of the Madison Public Schools Foundation, for her presentation, and to our very own U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin, an MMSD graduate, for spending some time with educators and joining us on a tour at La Follette High School as well. I also joined leaders from throughout MMSD at the Leadership Institute, which was 2 weeks ago now. This two-day event is designed to help create a sense of belonging, build strong connections, and deepen understanding of MMSD's vision, creating a learning community where all students are valued, challenged, supported, and inspired to reach their dreams. And we can't do that alone. Leaders can't do it. Board of Education can't do it alone. We need teachers as well. And I'm really happy with the efforts of our Human Resources Department and so many others. As we prepare to start the year, we have less than 36 teaching positions open. Now, and we're applauding for having that many open. However, compared to the last 2 years, it's tremendous progress. 2 years ago in the 23-24 school year at this time, there were 97 open positions. And just last year, there were 53 open positions. We continue to work toward our goal of having all of our teacher positions filled by the time the school year begins. I want to be clear that filling these positions is more than just checking a box. We want to attract and retain high-quality, world-class educators who can make a difference and help our students learn, grow, and thrive. I'll also note we don't have any data written down about this, but I also know that we have increased our substitute teacher hiring as well, and not by 10 or 20 or 50 or 100, more than 100. So we have a group that is ready to also come in and substitute teach in the MMSD, and we're really happy about those efforts as well. So it feels much more stable as we are getting ready to start this school year. Let's talk about purpose a little bit. MMSD, as you know, previously joined the City of Madison on a bus tour last May. And last week, the MMSD joined the City of Madison, the University of Wisconsin, and the Madison Public Schools Foundation on another bus tour of the city, this time focusing on the south side and near west side. And again, we had the opportunity to see 8 different areas where there's newer planned developments on Madison's west side, and some of these we're learning about in real time. As the wheels on the bus are rolling, we're learning updates that are relevant and extremely important to our work. I continue to be, this shouldn't shock you, I continue to be amazed at the growth and development that's happening right before our eyes. Seeing these areas alongside our city partners helps us increase our understanding of work being done. you know, our city planners don't think like school administrators. And trust me, school administrators don't think like city planners. So it really has been an incredible relationship for us to strengthen. The tour also creates an opportunity to ask questions, collaborate, and further strengthen our partnerships. And as much as the city is growing, you know, I drove out to Olson Elementary School earlier today and always just amazed as you go over the hill behind the Channel 3 tower and just look at the expanse of land that is just sitting there waiting to be developed, butting up to developments that are already underway. We know those areas are going to look different. My goal with the entire Building for the Future plan is for us to understand and embrace and make sure that we're planning with the city and not reacting to the planning that's happening in the city. We have to do this in a incredibly a well-informed way, and we have to do it in a collaborative way. There have been no decisions that have been made. In fact, there are really no initiatives pursuing this other than apartments showing up and casting shadows on our full elementary schools. That's happening right now at Hawthorne Elementary School. Shadows from 3 different complexes right now that are going to drastically impact who goes to that school because there's no room. And that's just one example. So we have to get really good at partnering with our community, understanding what our needs are, and making sure that we can provide those kinds of learning opportunities to all of our students and families. So I want to say thank you to Megan Tuttle, the planning director, and Kevin Furchnow, the principal planner for the city of Madison, for sharing with us. Thank you also to Brenda Gonzalez from the UW. We also had Alder District 19, John Uguerra, join us, Melinda Heinrichs from the foundation, and board members Maya Pearson and Martha Saravo were able to join us as well. A very informative afternoon that we spent. Recently, the spring, or towards the middle of summer, I should say, it was spring, it was summer, and now it's the start of the school year. 2 of our elected leaders, Representative Renuka Mayadev and U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin, recently visited our schools. The visits give us an opportunity to showcase the incredible work happening in our classrooms and highlight the real challenges our students, educators, and families face. Representative Mayadev visited Mendota Elementary, where Wisconsin's very first Freedom School program was launched, and she helped celebrate their last day as a guest reader. What was great about this day is that Representative Mayadev worked previously for the Children's Defense Fund, coordinating Freedom Schools across the state of Ohio. So it was a great natural place for her to be back and to see and be part of history, both here in Wisconsin and in MMSD, a district she represents. Was really an outstanding visit that she was able to participate in. As I touched on earlier, Senator Baldwin joined new educators at La Follette, but she also went and took a tour of the new construction and the improvements that were responsible or made possible from the 2020 referendum. The conversation then also centered on how federal funding impacts public education here in Madison, and when there's threats or actual cuts, what impact that has on us. And I know we can count on Senator Baldwin and so many others to continue to advocate for us. These visits by our elected officials represent the great interest and support that we have from our community and from the state capitol downtown here to the Capitol in Washington, D.C. We know that MMSD is being advocated for and cared for by many of our elected officials. I'd also like to share a quick story with you that it was important to me as we start the school year to spend some time with our media partners, all who were invited to join us, to get some updates on how things ended last year and to get a preview for this year. As you know, there are stories that are covered, but there are so many stories that go uncovered from our district, both our size and obviously some of the interest that people might have. There are some really important things happening that I wanted a chance to share and express with our media partners that were taking place. So topics that were covered were the expansion of 4K, the 2024 referenda, Freedom Schools, Mad for Reading. I wrapped up my remarks by touching on the importance of fully funding public education, which has long been underfunded and overextended. And as a recap, we need to continue to share that public schools are underfunded when the state has a surplus of more than $4 billion. Special education reimbursement is slightly increased, but still far below the 90% that we requested for reimbursement. And with no increase in general aid, the burden is going to continue to fall on local property tax owners. This means the per pupil revenue limit increase of $325 per student, which would normally be partially funded from the state, instead is turned directly to our taxpayers because of the law. Our 4K students are considered half a child with reimbursement at 50%, even though we're committed and focusing on the whole child and expanding. We're expanding because our community needs it, our children need it, and we believe, based on our values, that it's a wise and important investment. MMSD also receives far less state aid than other big districts in Wisconsin. Only 10.7% of our costs are covered by state aid. 10.7% of our $660 million budget. Whereas in other big districts, that number is more like 62 to 68% of costs are covered by the state. So we have to begin sharing this with people so they ask questions and they can form their advocacy based on the facts of what we're facing each and every day in our school community. So advocating for public schools is a priority for me. This should be no surprise. I want to continue doing this with you, with our entire community, so that we can make sure that we've got the kind of future in the school district that all of our children will succeed in, families feel that they belong in, and that we can do some excellent, excellent long-range work in the Madison Metropolitan School District. Thank you, President Nichols, and that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Dr. Gall, for that update. It's incredible to hear about such a strong start to the year, especially with our educators being back and so much more stability in our hiring. Thank you for all of the work that you're doing to keep us in strong collaboration with the city as they continue to develop and reaching out to our media partners and continuing to be an advocate for us at the state level. Happy birthday again. All right, I'm going to move us through our agenda. Next, we're going to report on items that proceeded through the instruction work group held on August 4th, 2025, and I'll pass that over to the chair, Ollie Muldrow.
Thank you so much, Board President Nichols. Our last work group was held on August 4th. We discussed reviewing strategic framework, performance objectives, and we also reviewed our work group's scope and sequence for the rest of the year. I really appreciate the way board members contributed to that conversation. And later in this week, Cindy Green and I and Carletta Stanford and I will be going over adjustments to that scope and sequence in relationship to the board's feedback. At our next instruction work group, which will be held on Monday, September 8th, we will be welcoming everyone back and launching the year. We will be focusing on student results from the school year 2024-2025, and we will be reviewing our initial charter application. Thank you, Board President Nichols.
Thank you, Chair Muldrow. Next, we're going to report on items that proceeded through the operations work group held on August 11th, 2025, and I'll turn that over to the chair of the work group, Board Member Castro.
Thank you. On August 11th, 2025, we had a full discussion on insurance for health, board member compensation, food services, a building services and referenda update, Fund 10 balance, and just a preliminary budget update, and finally reviewing the operations work group scope and sequence. Our next meeting is September 15th, 2025, where we will again look at state, federal, and the local district budget, as well as look at the amendment process, review transportation, and then the student registrations for 2025-2026.
Thank you, Chair Castro. We did have an action item that was discussed at our instruction work group held on August 4th, and that is our strategic framework performance objective. So the board has recently approved vision and mission, as were read earlier tonight, and now we are moving on to the performance objectives. There are 3 separate motions, and Attorney Mitchell, should I call the vote on each motion? Okay, perfect. All right, so we'll read the first one. I move that the Board of Education approve the belonging strategic framework performance objective beginning in the 2026-2027 school year as written in the document prepared for the August 25th, 2025 regular Board of Education.
Second, Maya.
All right. Are there any questions, comments about the belonging objective? Board Member Muldrow.
Thank you, Board President Nichols. My first question is, and I want to start with a comment and then ask, for us to explain how we will measure student belonging. But I do think that this, as a value that we are establishing in partnership with our administration, really speaks to the heart of what our board believes in terms of a child's right to be welcomed at school, to be successful at school, to be supported and encouraged at school. I am wondering how we plan to capture belonging K through 12 and what the community can expect in terms of our ability to report on that measurable objective.
Thank you, President Nichols, Board Member Muldrow. I'm going to have Cindy Green join us tonight virtually and share some updates on the performance objectives.
Thank you, Dr. Gafford, and thank you, Chair Muldrow, for your question. For belonging, as of right now, we are going to use our climate survey as the major measure of how we're assessing belonging across 4K-12.
Are all students given the climate survey 4K through 12? Does it adapt to different age groups?
So in the past, we've usually started it at third grade. We give it to all families, 4K-12 as well, but
Okay.
for students specifically, thank you for that clarification, third grade.
Okay. And then I'm sorry, Cindy, if I missed this, but my follow-up to that question was, how will we be communicating that out? If students are taking that survey annually, are we hoping to see improvements from last year? And what's kind of the cadence in which we'll be reporting out student, our assessment of student belonging?
Yeah, I think those are great questions. I can give you some information. And in addition to that, we are going to be building out more of the specificity of the metrics post this approval tonight. But right now, I can tell you that we will do a pre-assessment that we do for the climate survey and a post. And we usually measure improvement along the way. That update on the pre-assessment is already built into our instruction work group for the fall of this year. And then the post-survey will come out through our annual reporting or end of year reporting at the end of next school year when we begin the implementation of these.
Thank you so
So
much.
pre-post and then more details to come. Sorry about that. I think I cut you off.
No. Thank you so much for the additional information and letting folks know what they can expect from us in terms of how we measure student belonging. I am excited to vote enthusiastically in favor of this motion.
Thank you. Vice President Pearson.
Yeah, thank you. So I do have a question just about, so the measure will be the climate surveys sent to students. I do know that we have a small but mighty team that is focused on the cultural climate just in general for our students and kind of working with our staff and doing some like coaching and things like that to do that. What is the investment that is needed from us to make that more robust? Because if that is like an actual specific performance objective, then my guess is that we would need to have that small and mighty team be a bigger and mighty team so that we can really interrogate and make sure that we are getting to that point of true culture and belonging.
President Nichols, Vice President Pearson, I want to just restate the question so I make sure that I have it right. The team that you're talking about, not our RAI team, but our practitioners that are in schools that are working on climate. So Cindy or members of the team, if you could discuss some of the strategies where how some of the additional staffing has been allocated and placed and what we might look at in terms of how do we provide more consistency throughout MMSD?
Yeah, I'm happy to start answering that question. Thank you for the question, Vice President Pearson. So at the central office level, we have an entire team that is dedicated to culture and climate. We actually just had a very exciting Culture and Climate Institute on August 14th, where we brought school teams together. And then at the school level, while we have very specified positions under positive behavior supports that act as our culture and climate coaches in our building. In addition to that, schools also have behavior education assistants, schools have dean of students. But as important, every school has a culture and climate team that they pull together, similar to an SBLT, where they have an entire team that is working kind of cross-functionally in order to determine both their universal approaches around proactive systems as well as where they need to take into consideration for reactive. The last thing I would say is because these performance objectives are for the 26-27 school year, as we continue to go through our annual budget process and review our processes, if we think there's adjustments that need to be made, I think that that time would be great for us to look at that and explore. But we do provide specific allocation to every school in order to support what I just named.
Okay, thank you. And so essentially, the allocation would be somewhat determined by the building leaders in terms of during that process of what needs to happen.
Not necessarily. There's allocation that is standard that's provided for every school. And then in addition to that, there's some flexible allocation that schools can use in some of those other positions as I named, whether it's a BEA, a dean, etc. But everybody has to have a culture and climate coach, which is through allocation of PBS as a standard practice. And then there's some flexibility beyond that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I would, just because I truly believe like for our children to rise to the occasion of excellence, part of it is how they feel in our classrooms, how they are feeling, how they belong in our school. And I think, I could see a space of us making intentional investments to ensure like that position is for every school and then that position is earmarked only for culture and climate. Nothing else, that is what they do. Because, again, as we are growing, our city is growing, our schools will be growing, our investment has to kind of match that, especially if that is what we're saying as a measure of how we're doing well. I'd be interested in looking to see where that investment can grow to make sure like that all of our schools, although earmarked for that is their specific role and that is what they do every day and not necessarily being pulled out into other parts of allocation. So I'll be interested to see how we can make that happen next year.
Thank you, Vice President Pearson. Okay, I saw Board Member Saravo, then Board Member Mosner Feltham, and then Board Member Vandermeulen. So Martha?
I just had a really more of a basic question about the survey. Does the survey capture the demographics of our students so that we know that we're just getting the diversity of the student body there, just in case there are people that are just not as active, or if we're engaging families that might not have
Oh, Yep.
President Nichols, Board Member Saravo, TJ or Cindy, do you have the data on the completion for the student climate survey?
I see TJ. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. So each survey, each student received an individual link that is connected directly to them, as well as their families at the same time. So we're able to collect the data and all the information on the demographics of students.
It is optional though, correct?
Yes, yes.
Was that it, Board Member Saravo, on this performance objective? Okay, thank you. Board Member Mosner Feltham? You're passed? Okay. Board Member Vandermeulen?
I have multiple questions. One is is survey involved in multiple formats, i.e. if you have learning disabilities, Braille, except especially Braille, if there are other difficulties. And number two, how are those, I know it's an online survey, those who may not have Wi-Fi, may not have the connectivity, how are they able to do it while still maintaining confidentiality? And then the third question I have, because I like the number three, is I'm also interested in culture and climate, but also not just both student and teacher culture and climate, but I'd also like to look into how these surveys are conducted and whether or not teachers are facing undue pressure to fill them out a specific way.
So for the survey, for the most part, especially at our elementary level, the survey for the students most of the time is given in the classroom with the support of the teacher in order to support those students, especially for those students who need that support. The survey is also offered in multiple languages as we do with most of all of our other information. So we provide that support for the students as they need it, and we provide it within the classroom in order to be able to support them with it. Well, that was your first question. What was your second question?
Second one is those who cannot afford Wi-Fi or connectivity, but still want to be involved and want to do,
Yep.
but just don't have it.
Yep. So again, most of them, all of our students have one-to-one devices, so have capability to be able to complete those surveys on campus if needed. And then we still do have some who have hotspots if they need to provide that capability if they need to be able to do so.
So then they can just request a hotspot.
Correct.
I appreciate it.
Board Member Vandermeulen, your question also made me think, there was a time where big brown envelopes would be delivered to the
Yeah.
and at a staff meeting, I would hand out climate surveys and then I'd leave the room. And one person was responsible for stuffing the brown envelope with all the completed surveys, and that's how they were done. So I do believe there is a better confidential way of doing it now, where individuals can do it on their own, do it in whatever frame of mind they want to be in, time of day kind of thing. So I do think that participation it's optional, of course, but it varies. But I think it's certainly accessible by our staff, and we can look at other accessibility challenges or opportunities that students may need.
I appreciate that because the accessibility was my main one. As for point number three, and the reason I ask it is because I always worry about influence, like you said. I've filled out one MMSD survey since retreat many years ago, way before you were here, at which it was supposedly anonymous and then used against every board member saying we should have all been in agreement. I have not filled out another MMSD survey out of fear. I can't be the only person who feels that.
Thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen. Were your
Yep.
questions answered? Okay. So we already have the motion seconded. I think before we move forward, before I call the vote, one of the things I do think is important for us to remember as board members is that if you open up the attachment that comes with the motions, you'll notice that the belonging, the academic achievement, which we'll go to next, and then the college credit and credentials performance objectives are all focused on the positive outcomes for our students, right? So when you look at the belonging language, it says MMSD will increase the percentage of students who feel they belong in their school as measured by the climate survey. And the next one is student-centered, and the following is student-centered. Now, to some of the questions that are coming up, historically, because we've done a climate survey for years, that's nothing new. But historically, our climate survey has been given to students, staff, and families. This performance objective is specific about what we will do to increase a sense of belonging for our students. So my follow-up question is, when our staff and our family members are responding, even though their responses aren't in this performance objective, how will we also monitor how our staff and our families are experiencing belonging? And I don't know if that's at a lower level of the key performance indicators or another way that we may be reporting that out each year, but I do think it's important that we're keeping an eye on that as well as this performance objective. Is there anyone who might be able to talk about staff and family responses on the climate survey. I know that's not the key performance indicator language, but I'm sorry, not the objective language, but yeah, is there anybody who could just respond to that? How we will monitor how our staff and families are also experiencing belonging?
Cindy, well, let me just say this. I think one, it can be a part of what we're thinking about when we're creating those KPIs for each one of these. But I just want to kind of talk about our current practices. So currently how we are doing that is that we do share those results with our principals so that they're able to really have that, what it looks like for at each building level when you're thinking about the climate and culture for all three of those different subsets. We also can consider like, how do we bring that back to the board as we're bringing and updating you on other areas throughout the year around the strategic framework, just including that as another data point where we can also include for you guys as well.
Thank you. And then while you're there, Dr. McCray, I know that you all are still working some things out, and this would actually go into effect in 2026, 27.
Correct.
Next full year. Will there be a baseline year that will be starting from in terms of measuring the increase of student belonging? Do we imagine that would be starting from this year or last year, or are you all still working that out?
I think we're still working all that but yes to a baseline, but determining what the year is will have to be in concert with Cindy team and RAI.
Okay, great. Any other clarifying questions or comments about the belonging performance objective? All right, seeing none. Student Representative Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. All right. I see no opposed. That passes unanimously. Let's go to the second one. I move that the Board of Education approve the Academic Achievement Strategic Framework Performance Objective beginning in the 2026-2027 school year as written in the document prepared for the August 25th, 2025 regular Board of Education meeting.
Second, Nikki Vandermeer.
Thank you. So we have the motion. I'm going to see if there's any discussion. And just again, in the document attached to tonight's board docs, academic achievement, the specific language is MMSD will increase overall student academic achievement as measured by required state assessments, 4K through 2, second grade reading readiness assessments, 3rd through 8th grade forward exams, 9th through 12th grade ACT, and GPA 6th through 12th grade. All right, are there any? Okay, let me see who went first. All right, I'll start with Board Member Mosner-Feltham and then Vice President Pearson and then Board Member Vanderpool.
Thank you, President Nichols. I'm excited to vote for this. I wanted to talk a little bit about two parts of it that I think are kind of interesting and worth pointing out. One, and this is just like totally Blair central. The stuff that we're talking about here, these scores, these numbers, are one way of measuring student learning. An important way of measuring student learning, I think a valuable way. And I know that I'm not everybody shares my sense that these are valuable measures. Because they're certainly not the only measure. But we have in there GPA, which is an unusual choice for a school district to be looking at student grade point average as part of our sense of how we're doing as a system. And I like it. I'm excited about it. And the reason I'm excited about it is because it's so close to the classroom. It so speaks to the learning that students are doing in their classrooms with instructional staff, which is, as people know, really close to my heart. And because it's unique, it's a unique choice. I think that I've heard people are a little nervous about it. Like, what happens if this is our measure? You know the phrase, like you measure it and then you are so focused on it. And I want to encourage both our team as well as people in the schools as well as students to see grades not as the ticket to meeting this performance objective, but as a reflection of your learning. And I want to encourage our whole team and staff in schools to work to make sure that the grades students are getting in classes are reflective of the excellent learning that they're doing. And to resist any like unintended consequence of grade inflation. That said, I'm like not the biggest grades fan in the whole world, but I think this is an exciting choice for us to make that I think can be handled carefully. I think that there has been exciting work about grading practices and about standards-based grading and how we reflect to students and families and the community what our children are learning in schools. And so I just wanted to put out there in the room that this is a unique choice that I think is exciting and I think actually really honors the learning that happens in classrooms. So I'm looking forward to voting on that.
Thank you for that. President.
Yeah, thank you. So my question is very similar to the previous one of just about what are the investments? And of course, I know that we're all working out what the KPIs and that go with this will be, but are there any thoughts of like what type of investments we will possibly need to make this happen? And I'm thinking in terms of in the past, we've approved earmarked funds for ACT prep in the past. And so it's just like things like that. Like, are there any kind of investments that we should be thinking about as a board that we will need to possibly do in the future?
Thank you, President Nichols, Vice President Pearson. Cindy, I know we haven't determined all the KPIs yet for goal number 2, but if maybe you could give a bit of a recap on where we are now and what things we might be looking towards in the future.
Absolutely. I think in general, I'll go back to indicating that we will make decisions more formally as we go into our budget planning for the following year. But I think a few things that we've invested in the past when we think about literacy and the areas of improvement for literacy are our smaller class sizes at kindergarten and first grade, our interventionists. Vice President Pearson, you mentioned ACT prep, and I think when we see our data in a few weeks on ACT, we've seen some really great progress that we've made there. So those are things to consider. Math interventionists is another area that we've invested in. So these are a few of the things that we've focused on in the past in order to really hone in on the academic components. I would assume that we will see which of these are still working well and receiving the outcomes that we are intended to, and then where we might make adjustments. I think for the GPA piece, we have done a lot of investing at the high school level around standards-based learning, as board member Mosner-Feltham mentioned. And I don't know that we know exactly how to operationalize GPA yet. I think once we figure out how to operationalize that metric, that might also help us think more clearly about what we want to do in that area if there's additional investments. The last thing I'll say is our continued investment in early childhood and 4K specifically is the place, where we need to start in thinking about that as well in order to ensure as students matriculate through the grades, those outcomes are strong.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say thank you. And just as another thing, just a comment, if we can also utilize our community partners in helping with that work. I'm thinking more specifically, this past weekend, we had someone from the career college readiness come and talk to my group of students just about being prepared for that transition from 8th grade to 9th grade. And I think that it was such a powerful moment for families and students to hear that. And so even finding ways that we can kind of do that, with our community partners, I think will be helpful as we're kind of like preparing for this. So it's not just only the investments we are making monetarily in the budgets and other like areas, but it's definitely like a community effort together to make sure our kids are achieving. So thank you.
All right, I believe Board Member Vandermeulen, you're next, and then Board Member Saravo. Okay.
Yes, I appreciate the GPA has been added in. I think that is important. I think test scores are not the only thing that measures learning. In fact, I know it doesn't, as someone who's seen that, studied that, knows that. What I worry about is the fact that it's not listed that IEP goals are followed. I think that that must be a KPI. I could deal with it without it being in the goal, but we cannot permanently leave out 14% of the school population and not track it at all, because an IEP that is followed to fidelity shows the best part of student success. IEPs are not something to keep someone into special ed the entire time. They are to eventually graduate them out of special education. That can't be done if we can't measure them properly. So I'm supporting this, but I'm strongly, strongly requesting that a KPI be added, that we add that IEPs are followed to fidelity so that we can measure when it is and when it is not. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen. Board Member Saravo?
Wanted to add that I'm encouraged by the added GPA part in this to capture the students that do not take the state assessments. And we have some way in order to track that, as well as during the last meeting that we had, we talked about asterisk grading that some students have as well. So I see that as an opportunity to capture those students in there and also to ask ourselves, like, is the asterisk grading doing its job? Like, are we doing our due diligence for those students that are under that as well? And just to see how they're performing and if it aligns where they need to be. So I'm encouraged by this, and thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Saravo. Board Member Muldrow?
Thank you. I greatly appreciate all the work that went into this. And I think the holistic approach we're taking to focusing on academic achievement allows for us to really have insight into things that are not measurable on tests. So a GPA will include a student's participation in the arts, in physical education, in things that we require students to do in order to graduate from this school district. A GPA is also something that is universal to all of our students in our 6 through 12 program, which is different than standardized testing. My questions tonight are really about the ACT as it's included in here and what that means in terms of what our students need by the time they take the ACT to be successful. And I want to make those quick questions specific to the area of math. So my question in relationship to the AT as we're using it to measure our success, our ACT as we're using it to measure our success, is what level of math should a student have taken in order to be successful? Meaning, will a student who's taking the ACT their junior or sophomore year have taken all of the math that's going to show up on that test if they're in alignment with kind of what our general practice is? So freshman year, a student takes algebra. Is geometry going to show up on the ACT? Is trigonometry going to show up on the ACT? Is calculus going to show up on the ACT? And will our students be prepared to meet that level of math that they'll be exposed to through that test by the time the average student in our district takes it?
I'm happy to, I didn't know if someone's at the podium, otherwise I'm happy to answer that question, Board Member Muldrow. So let me just restate. Your question is specific to measuring ACT and specifically in the area of math. And then in addition to that, what is it that our students need in order to be prepared to be successful on the ACT?
Yeah, so to make my question really simple, Cindy, what year do our students take the ACT?
Yep. So students are required to take the ACT in junior year, springtime of their junior year.
And on average, what level of math have our students taken by the time they've reached the spring of their junior year?
Yeah, on average, that would be Algebra 2. So most students start off high school with Algebra 1 or Algebra as their first course. Sophomore year is a traditional geometry, and then junior year is Algebra 2. And the ACT usually covers math going up to about first semester of Algebra 2, knowing that that is kind of the standard across the country around the math expectations. In addition to that college readiness benchmark for math is a score of a 22. So that's what they identify as the college ready benchmark for the math ACT.
I greatly appreciate that clarification. The other thing I'll say about this goal is that I agree with my fellow board members who have stressed the importance of our key performance indicators as it relates to this goal. Beyond test scores, beyond GPAs, I think we need to have a clear sense of when we say improve or increase overall student academic achievement as measured by required state assessments and GPA. That we're talking about improving from what to what. So how we will have a clear sense that we are promoting academic achievement across the board for all of our students, and that we can have a really thorough sense of what impacts student achievement as we look at this information. And so I guess my last question would be for you, Dr. Gothard, and that is, in terms of identifying key performance indicators moving forward with this goal, I'm curious how we know that we're doing a better job and how we will establish that goal in relation.
President Nichols, Board Member Muldrow, this gets back a little bit to President Nichols earlier talking about, I think you said baseline. Did you mention? So, once we have some baselines established through our strategic teams, it gives us a chance to set targets, so that we can have annual targets of what we expect our students to reach, so that we can assess our progress and find out, hey, we're meeting the mark, let's increase it. Or there might be areas that are just stubbornly stuck, that we know it might come back to the resources. We may need to invest more in a particular area. And I think not the difficulty, but the challenge might be is how many KPIs are going to be the right amount. And I would imagine we'll have a very good discussion about that, which ones to include, and that can really help us focus, because they could become exhaustive pretty quick. So I would say set a baseline based on the year, the data that we're going to use, the inputs that we're going to use, and then work on our teams to establish targets and bring those back to the Board of Education and the community as well.
I look forward to engaging in that process, and I am so grateful for the process we engaged in to achieve this goal. I do want to say, I think so often, particularly when we're talking about students of color, we will talk about their relationship to a test score as if it encapsulates their capacity to do the work, their capacity to learn, as if it encapsulates their abilities. And I think when you look at GPA, and you look at who is failing gym class and who is not, you have to have a more complicated conversation than whether or not a child is able to do the work. You have to start having a conversation about engagement and our children's willingness to participate. And so I hope that we get to have a multi-dimensional conversation about what it means for our young people to achieve academically in our schools. I look forward to voting in favor of this motion.
Thank you, Board Member Muldrow. Okay, Board Member Vandermillion?
Yes, just quickly. When will the KPIs will come back to us? Will the board be able to weigh in, and will the board be able to choose the KPIs, or will that solely be administration? How will that work?
President Nichols, Board Member Vandermeulen, the board is voting on the performance objectives. The KPIs are the drivers of the performance objectives. So I would say that is going to be, for us, for the most part, using data that we currently have, organizing it in such a way that we can say that this is causing, or this is impacting our ability to increase our performance objectives. So I think a lot of it's there, perhaps not organized. There may be new ones that we have to add, but I don't know that we want to design this plan where every KPI is approved by the Board of Education.
I understand. May I respond? I understand that. The reason I ask is because years ago, and Nichelle, this was your program, no offense, we changed the targets on Black excellence in the middle on what we were measuring completely. And the board wasn't always as involved as they could be. I want to do it collaboratively. I want to be able to have these discussions collaboratively. It's not necessary to have a vote on every one. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is just that we could collaborate to discuss them.
If you're speaking, Board Member Vandermill, if
Yes.
you're speaking about targets, not
Yes.
actual KPI.
Yes.
Let's have a discussion about that to see what a process might be that we feel good about together.
That would be wonderful.
Whether it's
Thank-
brought forward in a report or we have discussion, we can determine that.
That would be wonderful. I appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you, Chair, for letting me go longer.
Yes, thank you. I also just wanted to say I'm really proud of the work that the board did to get GPA added into this performance objective. You know, the state assessments are required and I mean, our families, the public expect us, and we have to report out on those things. And it is real data that we should pay attention to. And yet we know a one-time assessment it's a snapshot. And so I appreciate Board Member Muldrow, your language and comments around us trying to be committed to not only what students are able to demonstrate on an assessment, but also looking at our students more holistically. And although GPA, in my opinion, it's not perfect, neither are the state assessments in terms of really telling us what students know. And so I do think that we're going to be learning a lot by adding GPA in as one of those additional measures. And so I think that this at least gives us another way of looking at it adds another layer into academic achievement that we don't always get from state assessments. I'm also really excited by the 4K through second grade reading readiness assessments because I feel like we have invested a lot in 4K, making it full day, making class sizes smaller in kindergarten and first grade. And so I think us being able to monitor at a performance objective level, whether our youngest readers are showing up more able to have reading readiness is really exciting. So I don't know if there are any other comments or questions on this performance objective. All right, seeing none, then I will go with our student representative Shapiro. Your advice. All right, all those in favor, aye. All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, the third performance objective. I move that the Board of Education approve the college credit credentials strategic framework performance objective beginning in the 2026-2027 school year as written in the document prepared for the August 25th, 2025 regular Board of Education meeting.
Second, Nikki Vandermeulen.
Thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen. And for this one, before I call on you, the exact language is MMSD will increase the percentage of students who graduate with credits or credentials that provide post-secondary value as measured by indicators such as participation and success in courses, providing college credit, industry credentials, and work-based learning opportunities, and students earning a seal of biliteracy. Okay, I believe your hand was up first, Board Member Vandermeulen, and then I'll come to you, Board Member Mosner-Falta.
I am absolutely thrilled that we're allowing industry certifications, especially in the voc and tech areas. This is something that has been a long time coming, a long time needed, because often students could get college credit, but let's be honest, not every student wants to go to college. Some want a different career. And instead of having the school district and the school board assuming that everyone wants the same thing, we should be as flexible as possible. So I just want to say that this is an excellent addition.
Thank you. I'll go to Board Member Mosner-Feltham and then Board Member Castro.
Thank you, President. I'm also looking forward to voting in favor of this one. When I look at all three of these together, what I see is that students are excited about coming to school, that they're learning while they're there, and that the learning that they're doing while they're there is valuable for the rest of their lives. That word value, I think, can be conceived of as one thing, that it will help students into careers that will make them money, which people need money. People got to eat. People got to pay their rent. Like, people got to, we need money. We live under capitalism. But that there's also other types of value. And so seeing, for example, the seal of biliteracy as one of those examples, when you do get to operationalizing this, I am very aware that we're not there quite yet, that has value beyond just being able to get, or not, I won't say just, beyond being able to have a highly paid job. It also has value in your ability to communicate across difference. And I'm looking forward to MMSD in the future, thinking really broadly about what does value look like. I'm looking forward to a day when we have graduates who are ready to be in healthy relationships or participate in community in really meaningful ways. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this blossoms. The other thing that I wanted to say is about what's not here. And attendance is not one of the metrics that we chose to tell us about the health of our system. And I think that's an interesting one. It's pretty common that a school district would want to do that. And I want to assure people that the reason it's not on there is not because we don't think attendance is important, is not because we don't care if kids come to school. It couldn't be further from the case. But I think it's interesting to be looking at it this way, right? That students are excited to come, that they're learning when they're there, and that the learning that they're doing has value for them throughout their lives. And I think it's clear how attendance fits into there, even if it's not in the performance objectives. I want to thank the whole team that worked on this whole process. And I want to encourage staff, I suppose, to embrace the new strategic framework with curiosity and with openness. The work is the work, but how we frame the work does matter. And so I'm looking forward to voting for this and looking forward to seeing the strategic plan blossom. Thanks.
Thank you, Board Member Mosner-Feltham. Board Member Castro, you're up next, and then we'll move to Board Member Saravo.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say I wholeheartedly agree with Board Mosner-Feltham's comments about attendance. That's definitely been a priority for this board, for which we have expended resources and tried our best to support staff and our social workers in that endeavor to ensure that students are at school and learning and healthy. I just want to say that I am a full believer in experiential learning and immersive learning and just exposure to different fields. I think that really unlocks different parts of the brain and helps connect knowledge one gains in the classroom and how to apply it into the real world. So I'm a big fan of this one. I just wanted to ask, in the KPIs for this goal, will extra curricular participation be a KPI for this metric?
I'm happy to Dr. Gathard, sorry, do you want to, okay. I'm sorry, y'all, the toggling virtual. Thank you for the question, a board member, oh my God.
Castro.
Oh my God, Castro. Oh no, sorry. Okay, thank you, Board Member Castro. I'm having a moment. We have not determined all of the KPIs yet. However, that has come up around co-curriculars and how that would fit perfectly as an implementation measure to measure this overall. So I believe that that probably will be one of the KPIs that land in our strategic plan as it's come up before, and we'll keep you posted. But thank you for naming that. And Savion, sorry, Castro.
Yeah, let's make it happen. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Board Member Castro. Board Member Bravo.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that this particular one kind of goes into all the the variety of students that we have, all the way up from our advanced learners and those that are interested in honors courses, and all the way to when we were looking at like what are college credit and credentials looking like for students when they're really working for that and very focused on that during their careers, but as well as the students that are maybe going right into the workforce, and our students who have disabilities that may be focused or just have other opportunities available to them, I think is also equally important. So I'm also looking forward to what is going to build all of those students into this particular piece and what we're going to use in order to make sure that we're raising the bar and expecting really high outcomes for everybody.
Thank you. Oh, Vice President Pearson.
Thank you. Um, um, so I had to just, I know in the past I've made some comments about how we are tracking students once they leave MMSD and they graduate and what that looks like. I'm still interested in that and still hope that with our KPIs, we figure out a way that we can know once students leave MMSD what they are participating in. And I understand that's a lot more difficult because, of course, that would require, they're not within our walls every day. But I think it would be interesting and I think it would be worthwhile for us to kind of know as students leave MMSD at least within a year or two what they're actually up to, and what kind of value from their education that they have utilized while now outside of our walls. And so I think it is very important for us to figure that piece out. And I think it goes to this because I'm thinking even if a student doesn't necessarily, for instance, if the student is a poll worker, that is an experience that, they may not be getting credit for, but it is an experience that's very valuable as we think about politics today. And so that value piece, I think, can be measured in a lot of different ways, but knowing those things that aren't not necessarily, um, I guess, self reported and aren't something that exists outside of our everyday educational walls, I think it is important to kind of think of that. So again, I know I've said it before, but I just wanted just to elevate that again. And I'm not exactly sure of the work that will be needed on us to get that. So, but there is some value in that.
Thank you, Vice President Pearson. Board Member Muldrow?
Thank you so much for the time, Board President Nichols. College credit and credentials, MMSD, will increase the percentage of students who graduate with credits or credentials that provide post-secondary value as measured by indicators such as participation and success in our courses, providing college credit, industry credentials, work-based learning opportunities, and students earning a seal of biliteracy. And I think my comment on why I'm really moved by this is in part that there's the work of a lot of people over a long period of time in this goal. And it's like it doesn't necessarily seem that way, but I think having worked with multiple administrations, I really deeply appreciate coming in and seeing the work that was done before you got here and enhancing it and making it stronger. And I also think that this goal really, I'm sorry, this performance objective really speaks to the material benefits for our young people and a commitment to helping our young people access their version of success. And so I think about all the work that came before us in terms of establishing our bilingual programming and all the work we still need to do, and how this goal speaks to that. I think about the work that went into pathways and the work that has been showcased for this board and for this community over and over again in terms of how our young people get to participate in industry credentials and work-based learning opportunities, including hearing from our partners over at Operation Fresh Start this evening. I'm tremendously grateful for the opportunity to support this performance objective and what it means for our district and our young people. I'm tremendously grateful for your leadership, Dr. Gothard, in continuing Really, really hard work by a lot of people over many years, and creating a sort of promise to continue doing that work and to continue doing it with meaning, and conviction. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Board Member Muldrow. Before I call the vote, I just wanted to say that I want to just name explicitly that when we decided to make this choice, we were also making a choice not to use high school graduation as the performance objective. It does not mean that we will not still collect, track, and report on high school graduation, which I think is a very common indicator for school districts, right? So we're still going to be monitoring, tracking, and reporting high school graduation. But this board has said there may be another way for us to be able to talk about the health of our system, the health of young people in our system, by looking at a new performance objective. And so the one thing that I will name, which I think I may have named in one of the work groups where we talked, I am excited about this performance objective. I think it, to Board Member Muldrow's comments, speaks about the values and the long-term investment that we're making in our school system for young people to be able to earn these college credits by the time they graduate, to now earn industry credentials by the time they graduate, to now have work-based learning opportunities and to earn a seal of biliteracy. Like, those are amazing opportunities in our school district. And I think it's something that we should be proud of and that we should continue to invest in. I do want us, this is just my own opinion, to remember there are young people in our school district that are not taking the classes for extra college credit. They may not be as interested in a seal of biliteracy. They may not be the young people who are so inspired by an industry credential. They want work experience, but maybe they don't want to go put in the extra effort for an industry credential. And so as we start to implement these in the next school year, I think we've got to be just as diligent about thinking about who are the kiddos that aren't in this performance objective, and how do we make sure that in these elected seats, we're doing right by them as well. And are we going to have to continue to invest money and resources to maybe help young people who may not see themselves in this performance objective explore it? Because I think this one it's a beautiful performance objective, and I think again I will vote in favor of it, and I want to make sure that we're not losing track of kiddos who are not going to show up in this data, and that we are still making really good decisions on their behalf as well. All right. Well, if I don't see any other questions or comments, then I will start with Student Representative Shapiro, your advisory.
Aye.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. That passes unanimously. Dr. Gothard, we now have 3 approved strategic framework performance objectives. Any comments from you or Dr. McRae?
Oh, I just want to say thank you, and now it's time to get to work. Getting strategies together. It's interesting listening to this conversation tonight, because 2 things came out, high school graduation and attendance, that are hallmarks of us understanding how good we're doing, how good our students are doing, how good our community is doing. So again, we're going to have to do such a wonderful job of communicating what the expectations are, and also making sure that folks understand that all these measures are important. And I could read to you right now, for example, that Cherokee Heights Middle School had an attendance increase of 9 percentage points overall, with notable gains of 26 percentage points for Black students this year. We're going to continue to measure attendance, right? I mean, so this is the kind of work at the school level that's being done, and we're going to have to do such a great job of, at the system level, high system level, sharing what this is and what this progress is, without taking away or diminishing the really hard work and heart work that people are doing every day in our classrooms, in our hallways, and in our community-based programs. So thank you, board. Great job.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the year ahead as you all are starting to really think about the metrics, the key performance indicators, the drivers, as you said, to those performance objectives and starting next year with a more fully developed plan. Thank you. All right, moving forward with our next action item, which proceeded through the operations work group held on August 11th, 2025. We have a policy language change. So I'm going to read and that is to policy 6091. I move that the Board of Education approve policy 6091, food services, accordance with the documents prepared for the August 25th, 2025 regular meeting. The policy will be revised effective immediately.
Second.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments about the policy change? Board Member Muldrow.
Thank you. I want to express my appreciation for our policy committee and bringing this change forward. And I want to ask, when you have a change that is really specific to kind of a singular sentence within the policy itself, how much work goes into that? How much time does it take to make this kind of revision?
Would you like to? Would you like me to? Would you like TJ to? Very simply, what we do, we meet in a committee. We meet every other Friday. We discuss the language. We have to coordinate with the attorney. We normally go through Petra and discuss with her what's possible, and she then will redline it. She also contacts the department that it is involved to make sure there aren't any other snafus or anything that we may not see. For example, with food service, what we did is we talked to the heads of food service to make sure that there weren't any requirements that we weren't seeing so that we wouldn't miss it. So maybe say a few weeks, I would say, depending. It depends on the change. A short one, probably a few weeks. A long one, I can't give you that. It's highly policy months, probably policy to policy.
Okay, so anywhere from a few weeks to a few months, this change that was made really shifts milk from an a la carte item to an item that students can purchase even when they have school lunch debt. Is there an anticipated expense related to this that was kind of part of the weeks of work that went into this change?
Petra would know best on the expenditure. We were not asked on expenditure language, and we did not research it as much as we researched how it would affect each individual. But it would not, what we were told was it wasn't a major issue. However, I can ask Petra to come up if she is here or to come online if she's online.
Thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen. So one thing that Josh, Executive Director of Food Service, mentioned was our responsibility in terms of auditing and wanting to make sure that we are accurately documenting milk sales. And so the idea behind this, in addition to supporting students and staff, was also that our records would accurately reflect our milk inventory. And so it's not per se a financial impact, but it's definitely in line with that.
Thank you so much for that answer. I look forward to voting in favor of this motion.
Any other questions or comments about this policy language change? Okay, seeing none, I'll start with our student representative Shapiro. Your advisory vote? I'm sorry. Oh, hold one moment. Board Member Vandermeulen?
Because I did see on an MMSD website that there was a mention on milk and how that if you had a negative balance, you couldn't get milk. Can we update that graphic for the, it was on our Facebook page a couple weeks ago. Is there a possibility we update that graphic, please?
I'm sure it will be updated once we vote on the policy tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Student Representative Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Aye.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Yes. All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, we are now on to our consent agenda. I move that the Board of Education adopt and approve all of the motions set forth in Section 10 of the electronic agenda prepared for the August 25th, 2025 regular school board meeting exactly as said motions are written. By voting affirmatively on this motion, a board member expresses his, her, or their affirmative vote on each of the motions consolidated, hereby subject to any express separations that have been made by any member of the school board.
Second, Maya.
Thank you. Are there any separations? Okay, Board Member Saravo, what are your separations?
Separations 10-3, 10-4, 10-6, and 10-15.
Okay, 10.3, 10.4, 10.6, and 10.15. Okay, thank you. Board Member Muldrow. 10.8. Okay, Board Member Vandermeulen. Okay, so that's already been named. All right. All right, so on the main motion, Board Member, Student Representative Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Aye.
All right, all those in favor, aye. All right, thank you. That passes unanimously. All right, I'm moving on to 10.3. I need to read the motion. I move that the Board of Education approve requests for shortened day agreements for 2 students.
Second.
All right, thank you. Board Member Saravo, yes?
The reason I pulled this one is just because I'm curious as to why we're approving a shortened day for someone who's in that particular program. Like, I would think that we're supporting students if they need extra time. If I'm just wanting some sort of background, and if it can't be answered today, when can the process? I'm just wondering for the process of why we were voting on a shortened day. It seemed like this is something that is either done through an IEP or if it's something more direct between the student and school.
Okay, somebody, I think, are you indicating that somebody online is going to answer? Oh, okay.
I'm happy to take that response if there's no one else to answer it, but I didn't know if someone else was going to be coming up to the podium.
Sydney, please share what you can. We can also provide additional information.
Yeah. So I won't be able to share specifics because it's about 2 students, but there, we have a policy that requires approval from the Board of Education, whether a parent is requesting a shortened day or if the shortened day is determined by the IEP team. So this could be 1 or 2 of those reasons. And it is required that we bring that forth to the policy because the student would be in school less than the required number of minutes. That is about all we can share at this time. We're happy to do more follow-up also, but it is a board policy that the board must approve for a student to receive shortened day. And many are parent initiated.
I think I just had just the only follow-up I had to this particular type of request was that if there's a student that's going to be graduating outside of the expected timeline, if we could have an opportunity to let the parents or the staff know in regards to that, that they can invite board members to celebrate that, even if it's outside of the typical graduation.
Okay. Was your question answered about why the board is voting on the shortened agreements? These are usually part of our agenda every month. So if you have more programmatic questions, they might be better directed to, is it Dr. Molfenter or Dr. McCray? Dr. Molfenter or Dr. McCray?
It was just noted in there that the timeline for graduation was going to be different, so I thought I would just bring this up right now.
Oh, okay. Any other? Okay. All right. Student Representative Shapiro, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. And I don't see, hold on one second. Savion. Okay, thank you, Savion. I couldn't see you. All right, that passes unanimously. All right, moving on to 10.4. I move that the Board of Education authorize the payment of interim bills covering the period July 15th, 2025 through August 11th, 2025 in the total amount of $35,139,046.16.
Second.
Board Member Saravo, your question?
Sorry, I did not need to pull that. I actually double checked beforehand, so I do not need to.
Okay. Student Representative Shapiro, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you. That passes unanimously. Moving to 10.6. I move that the Board of Education approve an expenditure in the total amount of $113,625 using $60,600 for the 2025-2026 school year and $53,025 for the 2026-2027 school year for the purchase of Improve Your Tomorrow contracted services using funding from the Strategy and Innovation budget for regular curriculum and the Career, College, and Community Readiness ACP budget. Thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen. 10.6, I believe that was you, Board Member Saravo.
Yeah, when I was looking through this, the question that I had was in regards to it says it's going to improve attendance as well. And because attendance is kind of multifaceted, is it literally talking about getting students back to school, like physically? Because we had a lot of community members know about attendance just in the general sense of like getting to the school, or is this talking about attendance in a different sense? It was just unclear to me when I was looking through all the documents.
President Nichols, Board Member Saravo, the real impetus to Improve Your Tomorrow is all around the individual relationship between the mentor and the students that the mentors will be mentoring, creating just a sense of awareness, a sense of belonging, a sense of pride, a sense of affirmation, a sense of giving, a young man in this particular case, a feeling of hope. Like it matters that I come to school. I can start to create a pathway for my future. And, all those are healthy indicators that this partnership is working. Early data that has been shared from other sites where this has been implemented have been remarkable. And I think we're really pleased that we were selected to participate and happy that we're going to start on the small scale this year at Capitol High and at Cindy, the second school.
La Follette High School.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jay. So we're really excited for this, our first foray with Improve Your Tomorrow.
I appreciate that, and I'm excited to see it at La Follette. I'm not sure if I quite got my question answered. This is talking about just in the classroom, being in attendance in the class. We're not talking about like there's a physical aid in actually getting to school if that's the issue with attendance. That's what.
No, I think there could certainly be problem solving. There could be somebody who might help articulate some of the challenges that a person might have in getting to school. But no, this is really all about the mentoring and the support in school.
Did you answer your question? Okay, great. Student Representative Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Aye.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right, that passes unanimously. Moving on to 10.8, which is UW-Madison Fall 2025 tuition for cohorts 4, 5, and 6 in the accelerated licensure and special education program. I move that the Board of Education approve an expenditure in the amount not to exceed $106,015.43 for the ALSI cohorts 4, 5, and 6 participants fall 2025 tuition using the 2025-2026 funds from the Strategy and Innovation operating budget.
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Muldrow. And you're up.
Thank you very much, Board President Nichols. I pulled this item because I would like to celebrate this investment and learn more about it. And so I would like to ask Dr. McCray to speak to the importance of this investment and what it will mean for our ability to special education.
President
Oh,
Nichols,
sorry.
Board Member Muldrow, we'll have Dr. Jen Shepke give some background on this.
Jen, I'm sorry about that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question just one more time?
So my hope was that you could tell us a little bit more about this investment and what it'll mean for our ability to effectively staff special education.
Thank you for that question. So this investment is truly a partnership between MMSD and UW-Madison School of Ed. So we've been doing it for since 2018, and we've had over 80 people part of that program. And what we're noticing is that we're at a steady state with the number of participants that are coming into the ALSI program and who are getting hired into special ed roles. In fact, there were noticeably less special ed vacancies that I was seeing out for the upcoming school year. Don't know if that's because of ALSI or not. There's so many different factors that come into it, but I would like to say that I think that's some of the impact that we have with the number of our participants who are in the district working on working in PC roles is really making a difference. And not only are they in the program for 2 years, taking coursework and getting their licensure, then they have a service agreement where they stay in the district for at least 3 years after they get through. That's the ALSI requirement. And they take the teacher pledge, which is a loan forgiveness program at UW-Madison. That also requires that they stay in Wisconsin as a teacher for 3 to 4. So they have dual service requirements that go at the same time, but also provide a lot of incentive for them to stay in the role.
Thank you so much for all the work that you've done to make this possible. It's really exciting to hear that we are at cohort 4, 5, and 6. I think there is a really sustainable approach to staffing, and I deeply appreciate that this focuses on making sure that our young folks with the most sophisticated learning needs have support that is cross-categorical and specific to their ability to be successful in all areas of their education.
Welcome.
Hats off to you. Thank you for this work. I'm very excited to vote in favor of this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Muldrow. Student Representative Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. That passes unanimously. All right, let me move on to 10.15, which is the HR transaction report. I move that the Board of Education approve the August 2025 Human Resources Transactions Report, items 1 through 78. Thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen.
And we both pulled it.
Okay, who would like to start with your questions or comments?
I'll start. We just discussed it and I'll start quickly.
Okay.
The reason I pulled this is I have some questions I'm thrilled, by the way, on the number of teacher vacancies filled. I want to start with that. But the reason I pulled this is actually on people who are retiring and exit interviews. I have a few questions. Namely, how many exit interviews were done on retirees this year, and how many are we still doing? And does each retiree get their own exit interview, or do they have to request it? Those are my 3 questions. Could Jennifer answer those 3?
She looks like she's coming up.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for your question. All employees who separate have the opportunity to complete their own exit interview. There is a survey And then they can also request to have a more in-depth interview for the exit.
And do most people choose that, do more depth? How would they do that? I'm asking for my own knowledge.
They can send an email to the address that's on our website that requests for that. And we have a very small percentage of the staff who are leaving who request those exit surveys and exit interviews.
Thank you. And I think, Martha, do you have any questions?
Yeah, actually, my question is kind of going on the same path, just because I love seeing that we have so many teachers on board right now, and retention is something that we should always be focused on. And since coming on the board, I've been able to attend the retirement from last year, and then I got to go to the fallout the other week in order to see all the new orientation and everything going on. And I'm just wondering, and what you were just saying, it's that when we have things available to get feedback from teachers, is that something that they request, like they have to request, or are we actually proactively getting that kind of information from them? And how is that given? Like, is it something that's automatically given to someone?
Board Member Strava, what specific information?
In general, an exit survey where someone is leaving, where you're looking at the reasons why. Does it have nothing to do with the district? Does it have something to do with a specific experience? I just think it's important to capture those things.
Jennifer, if you could just do some of the details.
Sure. Thank you for your question, Board Member Stravo. We have a variety of questions on the exit survey that cover, whether it's the building climate, whether it's pay, whether there are so many different questions on there. And then those are all scaled, but then there are lots of open-ended questions, so we can gather that information as well.
Is it proactive though? Like we're looking for that, or is it something that they have to ask for? I guess is more.
Whenever anyone fills out a retirement or a separation, the form, it is right at the bottom of that. So they have the opportunity to fill out the survey or request the interview.
Can I make a suggestion? We have an upcoming HR update
in October,
in which you will cover kind of beginning of the year hiring, give us some trend data. Might this question around the exit interviews or what we're learning from retirees or new staff also be included?
Consider
Maybe
there was a Facebook post that.
Point of order.
Yeah, right now.
Sorry, I apologize.
Thank you.
Trying to explain. I apologize.
I don't need
My
an
error.
explanation. Thank you. Maybe that could be something that you could include in your HR update. I think that would be helpful information, maybe for board members to get a better sense of how are we gathering the voices and feedback from people leaving our district and people coming into the district. Because that's what I hear in some of the questions.
Yes,
would that be possible?
We would be happy to put that information.
Okay.
The update.
Are there any further questions about the actual transaction report? Okay, Board Member Vandermeulen.
Yes. Quick question. Are we counting the Grow Your Own as additional future HR teachers for special ed, or are we counting them once they have completed the program?
I'm sorry, I thought we were on it.
So I guess I'm Board Member Vandermeulen, respectfully. The motion is to approve the August 2025 Human Resources Transaction Report items 1 through 78. There are a list of retirees and separations on the report, so I respectfully can understand follow-up questions about retirees. However, we're going in more depth into certain HR components that I think are better left for the update that we will get in October or emailing the administration directly. We should stay focused on the motion that we have seconded, if we're okay with that.
I appreciate that. However, I I thought I sent an email and I must not have. I apologize.
Okay, so who should Board Member Vandermeulen send her question to? To Dr. McRae? Okay, sorry about that. All right, great. Thank you. I think are we good with Jennifer's responses right now about retirees and? Okay, thank you. Student Representative Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Aye.
All right, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, one. All right, that motion still passes 6-1. Thank you. All right, let's move on to our other business. All right, we have other reports to the board. Starting with the City County Schools Collaborative Committee. We had a meeting on August 13th. And at that committee member, Board Member Saravo was able to join me. We talked about a letter that was drafted, and the letter basically is a letter that will be sent to the Common Council, the county board, as well as the Board of Education, with a little bit of the history of the committee, the city ordinance that kind of formed the committee, and a recommendation from the committee to consider dissolving the committee due to many challenges that have persisted over the years. I don't know, has any board member you received the email? And I think that committee right now has tried a lot of different ways to make the committee a more impactful kind of functional committee. And yet, because the committee does not receive referrals, the committee kind of struggles to come up with, I guess, an appropriate charge. And so there is a recommendation. If you have any reactions to this recommendation, it would be great to have those emailed back in, or expressing those now. We do not plan on having a September meeting because we're going to be waiting for feedback to come back in from the various bodies. All right. Board Member Saravo?
I just wanted to add that this was the first and the only meeting that I got to attend with this particular committee, but it sounded like the charge had kind of lost its way over time, or it had a specific purpose, and then right now it just seems it needs redirection, in my opinion. So I was abstaining from the final vote of what to do with it, just because I had very little interaction from it, and I couldn't have a very formed opinion on which way it should actually go. But it seemed like many of the other committee members did not have interest in maintaining it. And I think it needs a new charge and more
it would need
interest.
Reconstituted in some form or fashion, in my opinion. Board Member Muldrow?
Yeah, I want to thank you, Board President Nichols and Board Member Saravo, for representing the school district as part of that committee. I do have to say, I think it is disappointing that that committee would be interested in dissolving, because I think there's something deeply powerful in local bodies of governance coming together in the interests of our young people across the city and across the county. And I do think that there is tremendous overlap of our work and significant implications of us working in silos as bodies of governance. I am not proposing any type of solution to this. Over the course of, the years that you have represented the board on this committee, Board President Nichols, I trust that you all have done your best to, champion where we should be working together. I do, I guess, question not necessarily dissolving the committee itself, but dissolving our ability to work across bodies of governance. And so my question then is, what replaces this committee? And is there a discussion around how we need to continue to collaborate as the city, the county, and the school district in the best interests of our young people?
Yes, thank you for that question. At the committee level, we have, because it's part of city ordinance, technically the common council would have to formally consider a way to reconstitute a replacement, right? And at this point, even the alders that are on the committee are not proposing something else. However, board member Saravo and I were talking, and there is an idea that I think we could, as an elected body, with the support of our administration, which I have not quite typed up yet. So Dr. McCray is looking at me from the audience like, what are you getting ready to say? But I think if we actually, as a school board, could commit to some cadence of listening sessions like we've done in the past, and intentionally invite the city alders and the county board supervisors that might be in a feeder pattern, we could be doing some of that work, the listening, the collaborating, in a collaborative way, and not be restricted by maybe a committee that feels like it needs like a posted agenda with a real topic and the follow-up items, because it's just been hard to really get agendas that feel actionable, and that we actually have some way to move forward with follow-up. So I think we were trying to think about like, is there a different structure that maybe it isn't necessarily like a committee per se, but maybe there's some other way that we could bring elected officials together in a more collaborative way to be doing something together, so that we don't have a good answer about like, if this committee dissolves, will the city reconstitute a new committee, or will we? But I think there was some thinking that there's still interest in elected officials from across the municipalities, like still getting together. It's just the committee structure seems to not be as conducive. So my proposal is that I was going to write that idea up, share it with board member Saravo, and then get it out to the board to see if that's something that we would maybe like to take on. Okay, board member Saravo.
I just wanted to add to that too. Like there's got to be something else, because even being on like the bus tour and hearing from people from different levels of Madison, this really calls for like that collaboration to be there, but like what should it be? And maybe part of it is going back into the community and trying to bring everybody together who's from the community, the schools. And I think Alder Joanne Pritchett was one who was looking for another place for us to be collaborative in nature. So like, I think there's still some interest in there, but I think it needs something. And I'm fully behind being part of and being proactive in maintaining some sort of committee or an actionable body or something that gets out there and starts up something new so that we can maintain that collaborative nature.
I'm and then also happy to put more context to the letter for any board member that's also interested. It is, just so you know, this has not come easily, and it is not without a lot of years of attempts to try to make it work in different forms and fashions. And it's unfortunate, but we're kind of at this point. All right, Student Senate. Student Representative Shapiro.
Student Senate does not meet over the summer, so we don't have a report. But we do have a tentative meeting scheduled for September 10th at our usual time, 5:30 until 7 p.m. And that's all I have for today.
All right, going to be starting the school year right off with Student Senate. Awesome. Thank you. Madison School and Community Recreation Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. The MSCR Fall Program Guide went out to residents a couple of weeks ago, and registration opened last week for all Madison residents. registration opened today for non-residents, and so the registrations are pouring in for programming across a wide spectrum of age, of like what you're going to do, if it's sports or if it's day trips or if it's arts and enrichment. All of that kind of stuff is underway. And the MSCR staff teams are getting ready for school to start and for students to show up in our MSCR school year programming. We meet again on Wednesday, September 17th at MSCR Central.
Thank you, Board Member Mosner-Feltham. Policy, any updates?
Yeah, Nikki said a portion of it in her response back to Board Member Muldrow, but we are just in the process of getting together our process for board members to be able to bring back or forth new policies and such. And our hope is that we will have that done before our next retreat time.
Thank you. No other committee updates at this time. We do have one other business item, which is lunch supervision duty adjustment. I move that the Board of Education approve the duty-free lunch supervision pay rate handbook revision as laid out in the documents prepared for the August 25th, 2025 regular Board of Education.
Second.
Second, Maya.
Oh, okay, Board Member Castro. Is there anyone who has any questions about or comments about the duty-free lunch supervision pay rate? Or anything that needs to be said for the record? All right, hearing and seeing none. Our Student Representative Shapiro, your advisory vote.
Aye.
All right, all those in favor, aye. All right, hold on, I don't see Sabian. Where is he?
Right here, aye.
Oh, there you are, thank you. All right, that passes unanimously. All right, y'all. I believe with that, we can entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen, Board Member Pierce. All those in favor of adjournment and your advisory vote. All right, thank y'all. We are adjourned.
We've been advised.